Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Ben Corriette. I'm a PhD student in computer science at Howard University. And today I'll be talking about extended reality and the project that I've been working for the decision support uh, project that's being led by Dr. Adams. First, let me start by asking you this. Raise your hand if you know what extended reality is. I see no hands, so
Only one. Only one. Only one.
Oh, one hand. Okay, good. So first, let me start with a summary of this project. So since 2016, graduate students from Howard University's NCAS-M, Department of Psychology, and Department of Sociology and Criminology have partnered with the National Severe Storms Laboratory in Norman, Oklahoma, to research emergency managers' decision-making processes from an interdisciplinary framework. Dr. Terry Adams has been working with Dr. Gloria Washington, who is my research advisor, and the Effective Biometrics Lab at Howard University on this project since 2017. The first phase of the user experience was a two-dimensional interactive map, and that was completed last year in May. The second phase of the user experience, which is currently in development, is augmented reality, which is a component of extended reality. And that's still under development. The first version was released in August of last year, and the second version was released in January of this year. Now, let me introduce you to the team that I have the privilege of working with. Starting with the leftmost column at the very top is Dr. Terry Adams, who is the Deputy Director of NCAS-M. Below her is Donald Long, who's worked with me extensively on this project. He's been very helpful as far as the testing side and helped me get the two-dimensional piece of it done. Very instrumental in that part, and he still is as we continue to move forward. In the very middle is Rebecca Hackett. She's been on our team recently in the past few months. Very helpful in testing the 3D augmented reality side of this project. And on the rightmost column at the very top is Nia Anderson. She's been helping me since summer of last year in testing both the 2D and the 3D components of this project. And below her is myself, who serves as a solution developer for this endeavor. So what's the objective of this project? It is to develop a realistic, immersive, two-dimensional and three-dimensional user experience of severe weather scenarios for emergency managers who participate in the NCAS-M decision-making research study, so that we can measure how being in severe weather impacts their decision-making. So let's show you a little bit more about the user experience design, starting with the two-dimensional interactive maps. So what you see on your screen now is an overview of how the two-dimensional interactive map user experience actually looks. So on the left-hand side, we have the interactive map. Think of a Google Maps that you can actually go around and see the geography of the area where the severe weather scenario will be taking place. You might observe that there are two different pins in the map that I'll talk more about later. But basically, they are within a 1 mile radius of the epicenter of the simulated weather scenario, severe weather scenario. On the right-hand column, you see that there's a thunderstorm graphicast, and below that is the NWS chat message. So when an emergency manager looks at this, they'll be able to have sort of an overview of the severe weather scenario based on what they've seen so far. So I'll show you what the graphic cast actually looks in more detail. So when you click on that in the upper right, you'll see this dialog pop up. Donald Long was actually instrumental in creating these graphics. And so here is the incoming severe weather in this scenario, it's Atlanta, Georgia. So you can have a closer look as to the severe weather that is to be expected. Moving on to the map component, as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 pins on the map, and these are the shelter locations for that severe weather scenario. If you click on one of those pins, it'll actually show you the address of where that shelter is. So next, I'm going to actually show you the extended reality component, specifically the augmented reality. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 versions. There's a version 1 and a version 2. So I want to show you both versions so you can see the progress that's been made since last year on this project. So just give me one moment. I'm going to share my screen. Let me switch over to this. Okay. All right. And this is the first version of it. Before I continue, can everyone hear that?
Yes.
Good, all right. If you can see it, but there's actually raindrops falling that are on the screen. Switching to different scenarios now. All right, so that's the first version. Now I'll show you the second version. As you can see here, we can choose between either a football game scenario or a music festival scenario. I just want to emphasize this is not the finished product. We still have some more refining to do, but we're getting there. Now switching to the music festival scenario. So those are the two versions of the augmented reality app as they stand right now. Let me switch it back to my presentation. Okay. So we'll show you those two. So the first version of the augmented reality app is available on the App Store and the Google Play Store. We are not releasing the second version as of yet, because as I mentioned earlier, we still have some more development and refinement to do on that. However, the first version is available on those app stores. So what are our future plans? So as I mentioned, we want to really tighten up this augmented reality app, and there's still some rough edges on it, as you probably could see with that. But we definitely want to continue to refine that and get it to a place where everyone is happy with it. So we are still testing it at this time. The final step is going to be virtual reality, a completely virtual experience, so that emergency managers who have a headset can actually just put that headset on and be completely immersed in the severe weather scenario. So that is the ultimate step for this project. And finally, the implications for future research. We want to continue the development of effective and informative tools that can be used by emergency managers, regardless of their background in meteorology and atmospheric science. We also want to contribute to the literature on emergency manager decision-making that considers the influence of social factors such as communication, politics, race and gender, et cetera, and what those social factors have on the decision-making process. With that said, thank you again for your time, and we'd love to take any questions that you may have.
Hey, Charles.
Ben, thank you. It looks fascinating, but I don't believe I heard you define extended reality. You asked us whether we knew what it was, but I don't think you went ahead and defined it. The second thing I wanted to ask is, we saw the app, but I don't know what we're seeing. Is it that it's raining and plants are growing in a person's house, or can you explain what we saw there?
Dr. Choko, first of all, it's good to hear from you. I'm glad to take your questions. So first of all, I did mention a little earlier that augmented reality is actually a component of extended reality. And extended reality also includes a virtual reality. So that's the definition of extended reality. So what you were seeing in the video, it looks like it might have been a little choppy on your end, but what you were seeing is basically the emergency manager would be immersed in their severe weather scenario. So when they sort of pan their phone around their local environment, it's going to actually they're actually going to be able to, sort of see like the plants, the trees, whatever, the rain, sort of blowing around them. So they have a better sense of, what it feels like to be in that specific severe weather scenario. So, but yeah, that's the goal, is to be able for them to sort of have at least a partial immersion into that severe weather scenario experience. But the ultimate goal really is virtual reality, where they'll be completely immersed in that scenario.
Okay. What is the intended scale? So you mentioned like in their direct area, it was like an apartment or like a one living space, but how big could it go? Or is it intended to just be like, living space, walkable area?
That sounds like Shadia. Shadia, it's good to take your question, if that is you. So I mean, it really depends on and let me just address the augmented reality space first, because I think that's what I displayed there. As far as the augmented reality, it really, depends on, wherever you are, as long as you have, a space to sort of walk around and sort of, scan around your area. It really doesn't matter the size or the scale of where you are. One thing that we did notice in the testing is that if the area is too bright, like if it's a bright day outside, or if you're outside, it may be difficult for you to actually see the different augmented reality components, like the plants and the rain and everything like that. You know, that's something that we have observed during testing. So it can't be, the area that you're in can't be really super bright, but you know, adequate lighting should work with it.
Okay, on that note, thank you so much. Let's give a thank you again.